Morning. It's Monday, April 25th. And this morning I want to talk to you about something that I watched on Sunday. It's a story called The Power of Big Oil. And it deals with EXXON, which at that time was the largest company in the world. You cannot believe that in the 70s, in the late 1970s, EXXON had many scientists working on the effects of gas emissions on the climate and what the possible future of gas would be with respect to the effects on the atmosphere of the Earth. They had teams working in different segments of the environment. They even had a tanker, which a team of experts was measuring the effects of gas emissions on water and on how that affected the atmosphere. They had studies done on the fact that Venus was a planet whose average temperature was 700 degrees. And the reason that their temperature was 700 degrees was because of the carbon dioxide in their climate, in their air. And so they were measuring the effect on the carbon dioxide in the air of Earth to see how it was going. And they discovered, without any exceptions, that the temperature of Earth kept rising year after year. Now, not so significantly that we could recognize it, but they had charts and reports that were written by these scientific experts that show that the climate was rising. And this went on in the late 70s and into the early 80s. And oil was a very profitable business. But in the lower parts of the 80s, the oil prices started to drop. And EXXON at that point in time decided that it was going to rid itself of many of the divisions in the company that were beyond just selling gas and oil. These were experimental regions. They were dealing with batteries, lithium batteries, and all kinds of different things that did not use oil specifically. But they decided that they were going to rid themselves of those industries because it was taking away from the profits of the oil companies, of their oil division. And so they let a lot of these scientists go. And many of these scientists left, but they had filed reports, and all of their reports said that climate change was a definite threat to the globe, to our environment, to the life cycles that were going on in Earth, right? And they had hundreds of reports that were written. And when EXXON divested itself of these other industries, they also sent to the University of Texas in Austin files, their complete files, all of these research projects that they were invested in. And when the researchers started to develop this documentary, which I was watching, called The Power of Big Oil, right? They went and they were allowed to look through the documents that EXXON had submitted to the University of Texas. And they were amazed to find that all of these scientists who had worked for EXXON were predicting the effects of gas emissions on the climates of the Earth, right? And that if we didn't stop producing, these emissions would eventually cause the situation that we are now faced with, which is this climate change. But when EXXON was directly asked about the findings of all of these projects that they had run on gas emissions, they did not tell the truth. They lied. They lied. They said they could not find anything that was significant that would affect the climate of the Earth. And these scientists who were reviewed for this documentary told an entirely different story. Right? And the fact was that these scientists did not sign any documents that would not allow them to tell the truth. So why didn't Exxon and Shell had similar projects going on, why didn't they step up and tell the world in the 1970s, the late 1970s and the early 80s what was happening to the climate? But they ignored it. And why did they ignore it? The reason is obvious. They ignored it because of the profits that were involved in the oil industry. In fact, several of their experts were on TV shows, and they were asked about the divesting of these smaller companies, or these smaller divisions that they had running. And these experts said, no matter which way we turned it, none of those things seemed like they could make the same profits that we were making in oil. Oil was easy to handle. Get it out of the ground, refine it, and put it off into people's automobiles and to houses, the heat. But with these other projects, which were lithium batteries and various other electronics, they involved a much more complicated process in order to make the money that oil was providing to Exxon. So this is but one example of what goes on in a great capitalistic society. The capitalists are making only one decision, and that decision is the profit motive. We must make a profit for ourselves and our investors, and anything else is not necessarily palatable to us. So they lie. Big oil lied. They have continued to lie. And now this should show people shutting down the Keystone Pipeline wasn't such a bad decision. Now, we've been lied to for so many years because of the profit motives in the oil industry. And that's my story for today. And if you have the opportunity to go on YouTube and watch the power of big oil, you will understand what I'm talking about. The first part is about an hour and 20 minutes. Take care. Have a great day. See you in the morning. Bye.